Juan Mendez Scott's Pool Party, Chapter 2. Even if it meant losing everything. I stood at the edge of the crowd, a practiced smile plastered on my face as I watched my classmates celebrate. The summer sun bathed the school courtyard in golden light, making the scene almost idyllic. Laughter and cheers echoed around me, blending into a symphony of joy that felt surreal. But my mind was elsewhere, fixated on a single sight: Chris and Leona, standing together, oblivious to my gaze. Leona's laughter was like a melody that tugged at my heartstrings. She leaned into Chris, her head resting on his shoulder, her eyes sparkling with happiness. My chest tightened. I tried to ignore the pain of longing that surged inside me. I had hidden my obsession well, masking it behind the guise of friendship. But today, as we all stood on the brink of a new chapter in our lives, the facade felt more fragile than ever. My parents were waving me over to the Range Rover, their smiles full of pride and expectation. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the inevitable. As I walked toward the car, I glanced back one last time. Chris and Leona were embracing their families, their happiness evident in every gesture. A bitter taste filled my mouth. "Ace, honey, let's go so we won't be late," my mother called, her voice cutting through my reverie. I nodded, forcing my feet to move. As I reached the car, I threw my graduation cap into the back seat and slid in, the leather cool against my skin. "Can you believe Ace is about to head to college?" my dad asked, starting the engine. "Feels like just yesterday we were dropping you off for your first day of high school." I managed a nod, my mind still on Chris and Leona. They were supposed to be my best friends, the people who knew me better than anyone. Yet they had no idea about the storm brewing inside me. As the car pulled away, my eyes remained locked on the rearview mirror, watching Chris and Leona until they were just tiny figures in the distance. I clenched my jaw, a silent vow forming in my mind. I would find a way to be closer to Leona, no matter what it took. Watching Leona, I thought back to last summer. It was a blur of forced smiles and stifled emotions. I spent most of my time with Chris, pretending nothing had changed with my love for Leona, my best friend's girl. We rode around in my convertible BMW, played basketball, went to parties, and made plans for college. But every moment I spent with Chris was a reminder of what I couldn't have. Leona was always there, a constant presence that tormented me. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the park, Chris and I sat on the swings, our legs lazily pushing us back and forth. The air was thick with unspoken words. "Hey, have you decided what you're going to do about Leona?" I asked Chris suddenly, breaking the silence. I could see it through his shirt. His heart skipped a beat as he looked me dead in the eye. "What do you mean? When y'all go off to college?" Chris sighed, looking down at his hands. "We're going to different colleges. I'm just worried about the distance, you know? I don't want to lose her." I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this was my chance. "Long distance can be tough," I said carefully. I pretended to be on his side. "But if you both work at it, it can work out. Know what I'm saying?" Chris nodded, but his expression was troubled. "Yeah, I guess you're right." A few days later, at a pool party thrown by a friend of ours, I saw my chance. Leona was sitting alone on the porch, her eyes reflecting the twinkling stars. I approached her, my heart pounding. "Hey, mind if I join you?" I asked, sitting down before she could respond. Leona smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Hey Ace, where's Chris?" "Inside, talking to some of the guys," I said. We sat in silence for a while, the sounds of the party fading into the background. "Chris told me he's worried about the long-distance thing when you'll go off to college," I said softly, watching her reaction. Leona's shoulders slumped. "Yeah, it's been on my mind too." I turned to her, my eyes earnest. "You guys love each other. You'll find a way." Leona looked at me, her eyes searching mine. "Thanks, Ace. That means a lot." In that moment, I realized how much I was willing to sacrifice for this chase. But the closer I got to Leona, the more I hurt the very people I cared about. As I walked her back inside, my heart ached with the knowledge that sometimes, The ones we chase are the ones we hurt the most. And yet, as we rode to Waldorf to the Silver Diner to celebrate my graduation, I couldn't stop myself from chasing her, even if it meant losing everything. Even if it meant losing my best friend Chris.